So what do you see when you look at this sculpture here? Yeah, buddy. Yo, what's going on? So today what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the idea of intentions versus reality and results when it comes to public art and being an artist in general. And I want to do that through an amazing artist, Willis. He just unveiled his sculpture called Embrace in Boston, Massachusetts. The sculpture is based on a reference photo that he saw after sort of looking at a ton of reference photos of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King. So he chose this photo because it was the photo after Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he wanted to focus on the idea of being embraced. So I love the idea, I love the concept. He chose to go down the direction of abstraction a little bit and conceptualism by removing the head and the torso and leaving just the arms and the hands. So now what you have is a sculpture just with arms and hands in the pose, sort of like that goes back to the way it was in that photo. So now you're removing the reference of Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King and really focusing on the idea of embrace. And that's what he said in a recent interview, is that he wanted you to see the piece and say that I've been embraced, I can connect with this. One of the reasons why a lot of artists, and sort of just like I love the idea of abstract work, is that you're able to allow the viewer to imagine different things when they see it through their perspective. So they're bringing their background and what they've gone through into the piece. But it is a double-edged sword. So during the unveiling, a lot of people had mixed reviews about the piece, mainly because they saw different things from that same piece. A lot of people didn't really know what they were looking at based on where they were standing, based on the angles, all these different things come into play. So a lot of people who did not have the context of knowing the reasons behind some of the decision making of just making it hands and, you know, leaving out the heads, things like this, really were lost. And when you don't have context, your imagination goes even further. So get really mixed reviews by people who really did not know about the project and just were discovering it for the first time. And that is why sometimes your intentions when you're doing work sometimes doesn't end up being the result for everyone. When you're doing a large sculpture or a large piece of artwork, a large mural, making a design in your iPad, in the computer, on a 3D design, or doing a clay model, miniaturettes, anything like that is going to be vastly different than when it's fully realized, installed, and in the environment that it will live. I got to see the Sunday morning profile of the actual process coming to life, and they had a ton of smaller sort of miniature sort of mock-ups of the piece. But when you have a miniature mock-up, you can see all different angles, you can see the entire thing all at once. But when it gets installed and it's 20 feet large, then you start to see exactly different things that you did not see before. And that is something that I think a lot of artists need to sort of think about and realize sometimes when they're doing their work and they're growing the size and scale of the work that they do. Because you're so close to the work that you're doing, you may miss certain things about the piece that you're working on. So I run into this very frequently. The recent sculpture that I'm creating for the Denver International Airport that's really large, people see different things in that sculpture as well that I did not intend. So it's really important sometimes to sit down and actually have other artists and other people that are not even sort of like a part of the project, you know, take a glance sometimes and look it over and say, oh, this is what I see, this is what I don't see, especially if you're working from the foundation of like abstract work where, you know, it's open to interpretation. So make sure in your practice, whenever you're doing work, regardless of whether it's poetry or visual arts, dance, it's not always bad to have others look at your work before you put it out there. And the thing is that they went through a ton of approvals, through committees, through different departments, and no one really caught this, mainly because it's very difficult to realize something on that large of a scale and how it will look and feel when it's in the environment. It's very different when it's on a piece of paper or on your computer. So hopefully this helped out when it comes to just realizing that, you know, sometimes your intentions are going to be different than the results, and many times you cannot determine what people see. People will see what they see, and sometimes you just have to let it roll off your back and say it is what it is, and you cannot keep yourself down trying to make sure that everyone sees the same thing exactly. So hopefully this helped out, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.